Hi everyone, I'm Monique Jacobs with Open Gate Quilts, and we've got Mark doing our recording. Say hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Hope everyone's doing well tonight. Happy New Year. I guess it is the first night after New Year. It's 2019 year already. It's crazy. So hope everybody had a good New Year, good and safe New Year's. Tonight I'm going to show you how to do some paper piecing and just talk about the usual stuff. Make sure that when you are watching that you comment and share and like us, because we like to be liked. Tonight we are going to do a pattern giveaway for one lucky person who does comment, and that will be my inside out look. Can you believe threads on everything? All right, my inside out table runner. It is made using 10-inch squares, and even on the back I use 10-inch squares. This is actually was in American Patchwork and Quilting, and I can tell you the date because I put a little tag on it. It's the Quilts and More Fall 2015. Yeah. So this was featured in there, and I redid it using Coastal Chic because I love my Coastal Chic. I redid it using Coastal Chic, and that would be the free pattern for one lucky person. It's a PDF, so make sure you comment, you share, and you like us, and follow us on Instagram. How about that? So that's what's for tonight for the giveaway. What I also wanted to show you was this cool quilt. This is called Safari Park. This was Mark's brainchild. He's the one that said. So everybody say, thanks, Mark.
That's right.
And he reminded me that when I was putting it up, who came up with the idea of doing a giraffe. How this happened was, this is actually on Craftsy's website.
Blueprint now.
Blueprint, Craftsy is now Blueprint. So if you go on, you can actually still go on Craftsy and look this up. It's called Safari Park. It will, if you check that out, then I'm sure they'll eventually get everything over to Blueprint. I think, what did we say, January 8th, I thought I saw?
Yep.
So this is called Safari Park. And how this came about was, they sent me the pictures of all these awesome prints, and they said, we'd like you to design a quilt from it. And Mark told me, do a giraffe. And I thought, well, how cute would that be? So I played around with it and came up with this giraffe print quilt, and I think it's super cute. So this is not on my website, which happens to be opengatequilts.com. It's on Craftsy or Blueprint, and there's a kit, so you have to get the kit with it. But how would you not want the kit with these awesome, cute fabrics? And with the kit, I will put a link on the Facebook page so you know where to go get it. So that is one of the featured quilts I wanted to talk about. The other featured quilt that I'm going to talk about, and I know it's past Christmas, but we can always work on next year. The reason I pulled this one out, actually pulled it literally off the fireplace wall just 5 minutes ago, is because it's paper piecing, and I'm going to show you how to do this block using paper piecing. And that's why I pulled it off. But this is in, and you might have seen this on a post I did earlier last month, is in the 2018 American Patchwork and Quilting calendar, and of course it is December. So even though it's over, I'm sure you could probably still find this calendar. The cool thing about all the calendar is it has some really cool quilts in it, and it also has instructions on doing all the quilts. So if you wanted to get that, there is a 2019 calendar, and I actually am in that, but I forgot to grab it before we came down here, so I will have that next week so you can see it. And I believe I'm in June, so I'm a calendar girl. Hey, not a cover girl. a calendar girl. Mark's just about whatever. Oh boy. So anyway, that's what this is, and that's why I'm going to show you. Another thing I wanted to show you was, don't know if you're aware, the Splendid Sampler 2 book. This just recently came out. This is done, compiled by Pat Sloan and Jane Davidson, and what they did...
Hi, Pat.
Hi, Pat. Say hi, Pat. What they did was they contacted 80 different designers and asked them to make a block. And I was lucky enough to get a block in here. Of course, I don't have it marked because that would have been smart to be thinking ahead. But anyway, I am in here if I can find it. And what they did was they sent us fabric, and we designed a block around the fabric, and they are doing a quilt along with it. I've done a few blocks, but I am not, I haven't kept up with it, but I love all the blocks. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of different, oh, I just saw it, shoot. There's a lot of different blocks in here, and you can do some really cool things with it. So anyway, this is the Splendid Sampler, and the reason that I have this out is this is the block that I posted last night, so you can see this is paper pieced, and this is my version using Coastal Chic Boutiques.
And that's by designer Amy Friend.
Amy Friend. So this is and it's a really cool block. Now my friend Katie wants to do a tree quilt, and I'm going to kind of show her this and say this would be really cool, and she wants to use Coastal Chic Boutiques. She kind of wants to do a color wash, so I think that would be really cool. So it's got my mind going on what I could do with this, because I really love this block. I was going to show you how to paper piece this block, but because it's hard to see with both with boutiques and with the smaller pieces, I'm going to show you with bigger pieces so you can actually see and refer back to it. So that's why I chose to do the paper piecing using this quilt here. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Before I forget, we have a dinner next Thursday, so we will not be here, sorry. We will be here in 2 weeks, and if you would make some comments, questions, what would you like me to do? I can answer some questions, and also give me some suggestions on what you would like me to do. I was thinking about maybe doing a block of the month or a block of the week or something like that, so everybody can follow along and use their own fabrics and that kind of thing. Tell me what you think about that. I can do some more machine quilting, because that seemed really popular last week. Everybody seemed to enjoy that. Anything that you want, let me know, and we will do it, because we're here to give you as much information, and we're having a blast, aren't we, honey?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, down to the lesson. Let's go over here, and I'm going to show you what I've kind of done here. First, I need my glasses as usual. With this particular pattern, you have your paper piecing pieces right here. So you would just refer to these, make a copy. You can make it on a thinner paper. I just use regular copy paper. Reason I use regular copy paper is because I just find it easier than using the other paper, a thinner, like a newsprint paper. You certainly can use that, and I have used that. It's easier to take off when you're taking the paper off, because this is basically a foundation piece, and you have to take the paper off at some point. So that's why it's easier if you use a thinner paper. One of the things that you want to make sure is that your scaling for when you're printing is off, so that it does not distort, because you want to make sure this is the exact size it needs to be. And then what I did was I just roughly trimmed it out around there so that I have just a little bit over. This is a 6.5 inch square, so that's, I just, like I said, I roughly did it. When you're doing this quilt, you need 9 of the pieces, as you can see. and there are an A and a B. So you're going to need, I think there's 5 A's and 4 B's. And if you don't want to do 5 A's and 4 B's, do whatever you want. Do 3 A's and 6 B's, whatever you want to do. I think this would be a cool quilt if you wanted to do it in wintry colors too, and not necessarily make it Christmassy. You don't have to make this quilt Christmassy. Pine trees are not just for Christmas. So you could do some different things with it too. But I just wanted to show you that. So I've got my foundation piece. Another thing I wanted to show you was this really cool little ruler here. This is called an add a quarter ruler.
Add a quarter.
Add a quarter. Attaboy. No, not attaboy. Add a quarter. So this is the add a quarter ruler. What is cool about it is it's got a little ridge on here, which is a 1/4 inch. So you can see that little ridge. And so when you're trimming, this just kind of stops you from going any further, and you can use it for cutting. So I'm going to show you how to use that. You do want to keep this piece as well, because I'm going to show you that this helps as well, and it has all the instructions. So just keep it, I don't know what I did with my plastic bag, but I put it in your plastic bag and keep it all together, because you're going to want to use that. But this is a great tool if you're planning on doing any more paper piecing. So that's a great little tool. Now, I don't know if anybody noticed, because I know some people noticed that I have an old and a new rotary cutter. And you asked me, I think one time, Mark asked me, he's like, what the hell does that mean? And I said, well, the reason I do this is that whenever I put a new blade in my rotary cutter that says new, I put it in my old one, and I know it's not super dull. It's got a little bit of sharpness in it, and I can use it for paper or batting or things that I know are going to dull it really quickly. And so that's why I label them. So this is something that you might, tip time. This is something that you might think about having, is having one that always has a nice sharp blade in it, and one that you can use for paper or for anything like that. Now this one here actually says paper on it. So, you know, whatever you want to do. I just do the old and the new, because sometimes when I'm doing some things that has paper and fabric, I'll use my old one because it has still a little bit of sharpness left to it. So that's why I have those two. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I've done here. When I'm paper piecing, it can get very confusing, especially when you're doing something like this. This is one of the halves of my little tree here. So if you see, there's a lot of piecing in here. So what I did was I labeled all my pieces, A1, B1, A3, B3, and so I know exactly what the pieces are when I'm working with it. I also did that when I'm doing my larger tree here. I put position 1, position 2, and position 3. This is just to help me keep organized. It's really up to you. Remember before, several weeks ago, I put them in baggies. You can do that too, because you're going to have 9 of these, 9 position 1s. You can put them all in one bag. It's really up to you. I'm just working with one, so I wanted to make sure I knew what fabric went where. The next thing I'm going to show you is that we need to cut. We cut rectangles that are 6.5 inch by 9 for our tree, and this is our background. And what I did was I kept them wrong sides together. And if you remember my reversible table runner, I did the same thing with this. Is I cut a diagonal line from corner to corner. I did not cut a 45, I cut a diagonal line. And what this is going to do is it's going to give me my different positions. So this is, and I have to look at my instructions, what's one, okay, so position 5 is this, and I'll put it here, and position 4 is this. So I know that I'm going to start with my position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's how we go in order with this. Okay, so now that we're all organized, we know what we're doing, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna start working on our foundation or paper piecing. One of the things that I find that most people find really confusing, and I certainly do at times, is that you are going to be actually pinning and sewing, pinning from this side, and then sewing from this side, and your piece is going to be shown on here. So it's actually a reverse. So one thing that is nice to do is if you're out upstairs and you have some light, you can kind of look at it through the light like that. That's a good way to do it so you can see where your line is, and I'm going to show you how we do that. So what we'll do is we're going to put this here, we're going to put it on the wrong side, and now I can kind of see my foundation. Can you kind of see that through? Okay, so now I can see. So this is, I've got my position 1 and position 2. I'm going to turn it over, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my position 1 fabric and my position 2 fabric. What I'll do is I'm going to put my position 1 fabric down, and I'm going to cover the whole position 1. So I'm going to put that. Then what I'll do is I'm going to take my position 2, and I'm going to line up my straight edge. And this is where it kind of gets tricky. So I've got right sides together, position 1 up, position 2 down, and this is where I'm going to look to make sure that I have a little bit extra over here and a little bit extra over here, because I'm going to actually sew along that line. So I'm going to put it down, and I'm going to take some pins, and I always like to test it before I sew so that I know it is correct and it's in the right position, because it's really easy to get it off. I'm just going to put it right on that line that I'm going to sew, and that what will happen is I'm going to press this up, and I want to make sure it covers my whole of line piece 2. That make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So then what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll take some more pins and put this.
While you're doing pins, you want to answer some questions?
Sure.
All right.
All right. Okay. And then we'll be at the sewing machine. All right, anybody?
Lots of comments tonight.
Oh, good. That's good. Hopefully lots of people are watching, and we're, yeah. Where are the puppies? They're upstairs. Yep. We didn't want to worry about squeaking balls and stepping over dogs and falling.
Do you have a template for cutting, or do you make squares or rectangular pieces?
Squares and rectangles, and that's the nice thing about it too, is that you can just use your rotary cutter and your rulers and cut the pieces that are needed. Mm-hmm. And most paper piecing now will tell you what size to cut your pieces and tell you what those pieces are. The one that Amy Friend did, she did that. She put, A1, A2, blah, blah, blah. And same with what I did. I said position 1, position 2, and that's why the sizes are listed, so you know which position goes where, because it does make a difference. The only thing that is a drawback with paper piecing is that you do waste quite a bit of fabric, because you need enough to flip it. So there is quite a bit of waste. The coolest thing though is you get really nice points, and it's very, very accurate. So if you're doing something like a mariner's compass or something that has a lot of little tiny narrow points, paper piecing is awesome for that. Even though you have to use a little more fabric, it's well worth it. Okay. So what I did was I positioned them. I'm going to take the 2 pins that I had out along my line, and because that's where I'm going to sew. Now when you're sewing, one thing you want to do is your needle's going to get very dull because you are going to be sewing through paper. That's okay, don't worry about that. You do need to put your stitch length down. The reason is that you're not going to be back stitching or doing anything here at the beginning and the end, and you need to help perforate the paper. And by stitching a smaller stitch length, and I'm going to go about 1.5, it will help you get the paper off, because that's one of the icky parts of paper piecing, in my opinion, is taking all that paper off, especially when you're getting into smaller pieces, because there's seams around it and you're trying to get that little piece out. Tweezers help a lot for something like that. So just keep that in mind. Make sure that you want to put your stitch length down. So again, I'm going to sew with the paper side up, and I'm going to start right at the end, or at the beginning there, and I'm going to end right here where this next line comes along. So I'm going to stitch it, just using my smaller stitch length. All right. So as you can see, I have a pretty small stitch length. And if you do have to rip, it's not that big of a deal. It's a little harder because you do have a smaller stitch length, but it will work. Okay. So then I'll take my pins out. And I'm going to flip this piece up. Now it looks like nothing right now, but wait till you get all the pieces out and then you will see. One of the things that you can do, and we are going to go back to the cutting table, honey, is we're going to come back over here. I am going to fold my paper back, and I'm going to use my add a quarter ruler, and I'm going to trim any excess down. So now I have a 1/4 inch seam. So that's one good use for the add a quarter ruler. And then what I'll do is I'm going to press this up, and I'm actually going to press it. And I know some people use their finger press it. I like to press because what it does is it helps crisp up the paper, and it's easier for the paper to come off. Just be very careful that you don't burn the paper and start a fire, because we would not want that. All right, so I'm just going to quickly press it using my awesome Aliso iron. And then I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to show you another cool thing to use your add a quarter ruler for. So my next line that I'm going to do is this line here. So what I will do is, this is where your instructions come in handy. I'm going to take my instructions and line up one of these edges right along that line, which is my next seam I'm going to do. I'm going to fold this on top, put my add a quarter ruler on, and trim that excess off. Why do I do that? Because when I add my position 3, the cool thing is I've already got my 1/4 inch seam. My voice is getting high because I'm excited. It's so cool. He thinks I'm weird. What do you guys think? Am I weird? Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to line up my position here, and it's so much easier now because I have a straight line that I can go on. And again, take my pins like I've done before, turn it over, and I'm just going to make sure everything's good. So I'm going to pin it right along that seam, turn it over, and make sure I cover all the way up here. Okay, I'm going to do that. And you do want to come up here too, because that's your seam allowance for your block. So it looks good. So then I'm going to pin it and pin it from this side. Oh, look, position one's on me. Shouldn't throw it away because I'm going to make more of these. And then take that out. Actually, I should be pinning from this side because I'm going to be sewing from this side. See how easy it is to get confused because you're like pinning from one side, sewing from the other. Okay, so now I'm going to sew along there. So we're going to come out back over here. And again, using my small stitch length, I'm going to sew right along my seam there. Okay. So then all I have to do is take it out. And take my pins out. And then I'll press it. And now we're starting to get my little angles on my tree. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put position 4 on. So let's go on over here. And again, I'm going to use my add a quarter ruler. So I'm going to line up my instructions, and if you don't have the instructions, don't worry, use just a piece of cardboard or a thin piece of cardboard or a piece of paper to hold it. It just helps you get that nice crisp line. You're gonna just fold that over. My position 3 is on my ruler, so we can just move that. And then I'm gonna line up the add a quarter right along there and trim that off. And so I've got my nice straight line. I take my position 4, and so it's going to look like that. So I flip it over and line it up here. And again, pin it from this side just to make sure I'm covering everything. One of the things that I like to do when I'm paper piecing is I'll do cut enough for one block, and then if I find these pieces are a little small, I'll make them just a tad bit bigger so I don't have to worry about them pulling over. But I already did that with my instructions because that's what I do. So I made it a little bigger. All right, so that looks good. I'm going to pin it here and pin it here. And then I'm going to sew all from this point all the way up to this point. And because I'm going to cut this excess off, so I could even go farther if I wanted to start back here. In the center, you can't do that because if you go too far, this is not going to fold over nicely, this piece. But on the outside, if you're going to cut it off, you certainly can do that. So let's go back to the sewing machine. Anybody have any questions while I'm doing this?
Where's the tree paper piece found?
It is found in the 2018 American Patchwork and Quilting calendar. You can, I'm sure you can find it online. Check with them. They might have it. You might even have it.
Get a subscription too.
Get a subscription. That's right. It's great. They have all those wonderful patterns. The other one, which I'll show you again later, is from the Splendid Sampler book, and that one is again paper pieced as well, just a little smaller pieces. Okay, so I'm just gonna sew along here. Like I said, I can go a little farther than my line because I know I'm going to trim that off eventually. So I'm going to cut that off and then press it out. So quickly press it here. All right. Okay, so we're getting a tree, slowly getting a tree. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the same thing I did over here. I'm gonna do over here. So I'm going to cut that off. So let's go one more time, honey, to the cutting table. We're getting our exercise today. Up and down, that's what quilters do. Up and down, up and down. Okay, so from this side, take our cardboard piece, pull this. If you prefer, you can always, and see what I did? I went too far. And actually, what I would do is I would go ahead and rip that part out, because when I pull this over, I want to make sure that it pulls back so I get my 1/4 inch seam. So I misspoke. For the top points, you're only going to go to the point, but this side, you can go all the way to the end. So there we go. I'll do that. And we're going to trim that off. Then we're going to take our position 5. And again, we're going to fold it over, line this up exactly on here. Take some of these pins I got on it. And then I'm going to test it, as always, just to make sure it's in the right position. Because sometimes with these pieces, if you don't have it right, you might have to shift it up or down or do something like that. So that's why I always like to test it, just to make sure everything's okay. Looks pretty good. So again, go back here and pin it in place. Make sure I got it all. Okay, and I'm gonna sew. This time I can start up there and I can end all the way down there too as well. So let's do this. So tell us what you guys did on your New Year's Eve. Tell us what we did on New Year's Eve. We watched TV and I had to wake Mark up at midnight. And I was late. I think it was 12:01, so we kind of missed it, but we didn't. I told you your dirty dark secret, huh? That's what happens when you're over 50. All right. So look at that. How cute is that coming? So that, then I will press it one more last time, promise, over to the cutting table, and I'm going to show you how we trim it off. Okay. So I cut it, or I press it. Now I'm going to trim it. And this time I'm just going to, this is where I'm going to use my old rotary blade, because I'm going through paper, so the paper will dull your blade. So you just want to go right along that outside line, not the inside, because that's your 1/4 inch seam, along the outside. Trim, and then the last one, trim. And then, as you can see, I've got a cute little tree. Now for the trunk of the tree, let me open it up again so you can see a little better. For the trunk of the tree, I strip pieced it. You don't really need to paper piece because you don't have any odd angles, you don't have any sharp points. You can do basically a strip piecing, so that's what I did. It made it a little easier. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to take the paper off, and this is the icky part, I will have to say. You know that, right, Mark? He had to do a little bit of paper ripping for me one time.
It's the worst.
It's worse than binding. All right, so how I do it is I kind of crease it a little bit, and because you've used a smaller stitch length, it kind of perforates it. And you can't really use those anymore, so you just throw those away. And you kind of, and you know, that first one went easy, but they don't always go that easy. So you just kind of take the paper off. And this is a good, while you're watching TV job, you know, do a whole bunch of these and then sit and watch TV, kind of like when you're piecing a half square triangles using paper foundation, that kind of thing. You just, or if you're cutting your little tips off your half square triangles, that kind of thing. So this is a good TV job. And then basically that's what you do. You just rip off the paper, and there you go. You've got great points, fun angles, something really different. So if you are inclined to do your own designing, you could come up with some really cool things now that you know how to paper piece, because if you have a different angles, really narrow points like here, you can do it using paper piecing and you'll get some really fun ideas. So this one is from, don't forget, it's from the Splendid Sampler too. This is available at your local quilt stores. I believe Amazon carries it as well, and it has all the different blocks in it, so it's a lot of fun to look through and try some different things. Check out Splendid Sampler on Facebook. Splendid Sampler, I think it's just Splendid Sampler, the Splendid Sampler. There's a whole bunch of different colorways that people are doing. One lady's doing Halloween, which I am very curious and envious of, because you know I love my Halloween stuff. So she did some really cute stuff with that, and they are doing a whole bunch of these. And my block, I will be doing a blog post when the time comes. It's not yet, but it's coming. So anyway, that is this book here. So this is the pattern out of the 2018 calendar for the tree, the Christmas tree quilt. And for the little, this other little paper pieced one, it's out of the Splendid Sampler too. This you can get probably online. Check American Patchwork and Quilting, allpeoplequilt.com. This one is the same. This one, again, check with your local quilt store or online. And don't forget, you want to comment, share, tell me what you guys have been up to for the New Year's, what you guys want me to do, and you get a chance to win the Inside Out pattern. It has this table runner, plus it has a table topper in it, so it's got two different patterns in it. And then one last thing, don't forget to check out Blueprint or Craftsy that has the Safari Park, these awesome little giraffes. And if you don't want to do the whole thing, you could do a really cute little wall hanging using this pattern. Don't forget, we are here every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Central, except next week. We are not going to be here, but we will be here the following week. And we wanted to thank you guys for watching, and have a happy New Year. Quilt, bind, and enjoy.